Okay, welcome back to the Passports, Profits, and Pixie Dust podcast. I am so excited for our guest today, Professor Melissa. Professor Melissa has worked a couple jobs in her adult life always until 2022. But in 2022, she stopped doing that to focus just on her university professor role, but then also added in some really fun travel pieces. So, Melissa, welcome to the show. We're so excited to hear more about your story.
Yeah, thank you.
So, okay, give us a little bit besides what I already just said, a little bit of background. How might people know you? How did you even get started doing it? Because I know I found you on TikTok. Is TikTok your main platform? I guess let's start there.
Well, it all started with TikTok, which is
Okay.
crazy because I was the biggest TikTok hater.
Yeah.
I was anti TikTok for so many reasons. I'm like, I don't need another channel to consume my life and start doom scrolling. But my children in this generation, they communicate via TikTok. So they would
Yeah.
constantly send me TikToks on text. I'm like, I can't open this. I don't have TikTok. So I
Uh,
begrudgingly joined TikTok. And this is right at the time when I had exited the nonprofit sector. So as you noted, I had two jobs for my entire adult life, basically. And I had finally had enough of that. And I'm like, I want to try to just have one job. And
yeah.
luckily, professor is very flexible. I get
Yeah.
summers off,
Yep.
things like that. And so I finally, for the first time in my life, could travel. And so because my kids
Mm,
kept sending me TikToks, I finally joined TikTok. And because I was finally traveling for the first time in my life the way I wanted to, because I had the time and the freedom to do it,
right.
I, being an educator, wanting to help people, I would just started making TikToks to share helpful tips and information. And it just blew up.
Okay.
And here
Oh
we
my gosh.
are. And
I love
it's
it.
only been a year and a half.
It's only been a year and a half. Oh my gosh, that's insane. That's so crazy. So, when you started traveling, was it always cruising? Were you doing other things at first, or did like the cruising just kind of naturally happen?
So here's what's funny about social media and being a content creator. The algorithm kind of puts you into a niche.
Yeah.
And I love all kinds of travel. I'm on a quest to see all 50 states. I think I have five left. But I love cruising because I am all about efficiency. And
Yep.
with cruising, I can get to a lot of different destinations. I just got back from a 10-day European cruise and I got four new countries to check off my
Yeah.
list. So it
Yeah.
kind of is like a little sampler, which I love. And
Mhm.
it's just interesting because my cruise content just would take off, and it
Okay.
told me there's a real demand for this, and so if people are liking this content, I'm like, "Okay, let me start making more of this content," and then I am a business professor, so then it pivoted
Yeah.
to how can I make a business out of this?
Love that. Okay, so what did that look like? Just let's just dive in. How did you start like, okay, let me start monetizing this? Was it first I'm assuming like the actual TikTok creator program or something like that? Was it that or were you creating your own things? Because I know you have port guides now. You have like it is definitely branched out, but I'm sure it wasn't like that all at once.
I would have no, but it's been drinking from the fire hose, so
Right.
I always see opportunity. So about a year and a half ago, I had a TikTok that went mega viral unexpectedly on a cruise. And that got me into TikTok's creator program. And then I
Cool.
started making money. And then I had another viral one. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is lucrative. And
Yeah.
it's happened now a couple times. So if I intentionally try to make content to make money, what does that look like? And then I just went down the rabbit hole of monetizing, being an influencer. I always bucked that word. I hate that word. It feels
Yeah.
ridiculous as a middle-aged mom being an influencer. So I
Right, right.
prefer content creator.
Yes, yes.
And from that, it branched out to, okay, what are the other monetization strategies? If I build out this empire, this enterprise, what are the different fields or streams of areas where I can make revenue? And then
Mhm.
honing the craft for each of them and figuring out how they intersect and intertwine. And then, of course, building systems, being efficient. As a
Yep.
solopreneur, I've now had to hire out a team. So it's crazy how fast this has grown in just a year and a half from one viral TikTok.
Yeah, that is crazy. I still can't believe it's only been a year and a half. I thought sure this was like a 3 or 4 year because I found your account on TikTok in January. And I think it was from a carnival, something to do with a carnival cruise because I had never been on a carnival cruise. I was taking my first one in March. And you actually were on the horizon, I think that when I, like the week before me. Like I think you were getting off when I was getting back on. So you were talking tips and I was like, "Okay, okay." But then I saw you had an Instagram with a large following as well. So you been able to basically repurpose a lot of this content on different platforms or do you create some specifically for Because I think you do the Facebook Lives now, right? So I'm assuming that's just Facebook. So are you able to repurpose stuff? Do you do stuff for certain ones first? Tell us a little bit about your system.
So I love efficiency. I love
Yes, I do
efficiency and
too.
systems and automations, and AI has changed the game.
Mm,
So I use repurpose.io.
okay.
And when I started having success with TikTok, I said, okay, how can I replicate this? And with
Yeah.
repurpose, it just pushes that same content without any extra effort to, I also have a YouTube channel,
Okay.
about 45,000 subscribers. So
Oh,
it
wow.
pushes it to YouTube Shorts, which helps drive subscribers. It
Yep.
pushes it to Facebook. Instagram's a little bit of a different animal. But for me, I love the challenge of figuring out each of the different platforms and the different strategy with each, and then how I can make one piece of content. And it doesn't always just necessarily one size fits all. And
Right.
come to find out, actually, Facebook now is more lucrative than TikTok. That's my bread and butter.
Oh,
And
wow.
fun
Okay.
story. So I made my Facebook's only about a year old, and I have 118,000 followers
Yeah,
now.
it's huge. Mhm.
It started with just repurposing TikToks, and my first month in, I just felt like it was a big flop. It wasn't getting any traction, and I went on a cruise, and I actually went on the airplane to delete my Facebook page, and Facebook makes it hard, so couldn't figure out how to do it. I'm like, "I'll deal with it when I get home." I come back home, it crosses my mind a few days later. I'm like, "Oh, I need to go delete my Facebook page because it's embarrassing." I had, like, my grandma followed me, and that was it.
That's hysterical.
And come to find out, while I was on this cruise, I had a video go viral, and
Mm.
actually in a bad way. There's a group called Entitlement of the Seas, and they took a video and completely misinterpreted. I was trying to give a helpful tip, and they're like, "Oh, she's so entitled, and look at this." And it's so funny about my biggest mantra is let your haters be your motivators, because this nasty Facebook group that was trying to like poke fun at me and completely misconstrue what I was saying led to me now having a very lucrative Facebook page because my following had
That's
blown up.
great.
I'd monetized. I didn't even know it on Facebook. And I'm like, thank you, entitlement of the seas. Thank you very much.
Oh, I have never heard of that group. Now I'm, like, kind of intrigued, like well, and you know what? I have seen that happen to so many people too. I have a friend of mine who was just on a world cruise, and same idea that someone took one of her posts and, like, shared it in some group or something, and everyone was just saying all this negative stuff. I don't even remember what it was about. It's something that they definitely took out of context, and she is the sweetest person ever. Like, she would never, complain about being on a world cruise, and anyway, then her next one that she made was like, "Well, thanks so much," and it showed, like, her monetization, like, the screenshot or whatever. She's like, "You just made me $600, and I'm going to the spa today to, like, treat myself." And I'm like, "Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, any press is good press," like they say, right?
Yeah.
Well,
You
I
still have
love
to have
that.
a thick skin.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you were going to delete the Facebook, and now it's less than a year old or around a year old, and now
Right around a
it's
year
it's
old.
making more money than the TikTok then.
Yeah. Which is good
Okay.
because this is the thing in business, right? We don't know if
Right.
TikTok's going to be around.
Yeah.
And it actually went away for a short period of
Yep.
time. So if I had all of my eggs in that TikTok basket,
Yeah.
I would be so anxious right now about my business. But
Yep.
now I've put myself in a situation where I have diversified the different ways to monetize. I'm like, Matt, if I lose
Mhm.
TikTok, I'll be sad. I like TikTok now, believe it or not. I still
Right.
make a good chunk of money from it, but it's not a big deal. It's a small percentage of my business
Yeah.
now.
So what about Instagram? Where does that play in there? Because I feel like in the business space, I hear a lot about Instagram over the other 2. Personally, it's never been my top platform, so I'm just curious where it lands for you.
I have such a love-hate relationship with Instagram. Instagram was originally my social media go-to from a personal standpoint because I loved using it as a personal diary to catalog the
Mhm.
photos of my own trips. So I could go
Yeah.
back and say, okay, I was here on such and such year or date, and I love that. But they are terrible for creators in terms of monetizing. But interestingly enough, brands are still so hyper focused on Instagram. So a
Yeah.
lot of brand deals and visibility comes through Instagram, but
Mhm.
Instagram is not the best vehicle to sell. Um,
Yes.
and they all have their pros and cons. Like I hate that TikTok doesn't let creators direct a link. So then you have to
Oh,
do link in bio. And then when you do that, the algorithm suppresses your content because they don't want us directing people off of TikTok.
platform.
And so what's great about Facebook, and again, it's like the boomer platform, but
Mhm.
hey, boomers have money. Boomers are my audience. And,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the boomers.
Mhm.
Uh, Facebook lets you direct sell. I feel like the algorithm's more favorable. They're very creator friendly. YouTube's very creator friendly too. So I would say Facebook is the best in terms of compensating creators. YouTube is, but it's a very hard road to get monetized. Very
Yeah.
few of us do, but they're very creator friendly. Instagram
Okay.
is not at all.
And with YouTube, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's at least like you have to have at least like 1,000, is it subscribers before you can even start monetizing anything?
It's pretty stringent requirements, and for me, the
Okay.
subscriber thing was the easy part. It was the watch hours. So you have to have 4,000
Oh,
watch hours within 365 days,
okay.
and there are other metrics too, like a subscriber count. So for me, my
Yeah.
strategy was repurposing my video content from TikTok, pushing it to shorts. Shorts are not gonna get you watch time because they're 30 to
Mhm.
60-second
Right.
videos, but that drives subs. So that's how I picked up my subscriber count pretty quickly. And then I had to learn the long form game, and I was a short form girly,
Mhm.
totally different ball game. I had to build out, this is my YouTube studio, a whole
I love
bedroom. I had
it.
this great studio. I had as a solopreneur too. I had to figure
Yeah.
out lighting and sound and all this stuff that was TikTok. I got my phone. That's useful.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I'm glad you said that because I forgot you have a podcast as well. And so your is the podcast newer? Because I know I just recently found the podcast. And I'm assuming you're repurposing from either YouTube or Facebook to bring stuff onto the podcast? What does that look like?
So kudos to you for running an actual podcast. I don't call my podcast a I mean, it's a podcast. That's what
Podcast, yeah.
YouTube. So YouTube is trying to push podcasts.
Yeah,
And so it is a little bit of a different format. It's more talking head, not as much B-roll because you don't have to, because a lot of people are going to stream
right.
it on Spotify, and just listen to audio only. So basically it is my repurposed YouTube podcast, the
Mm,
audio stripped and then streamed. I do not have time to do an entire
yeah,
dedicated podcast. I certainly don't have time to interview guests. I would like to one day
right.
in the future. I love talking to cruise people, and I
Mhm.
would love to interview cruise crew and frequent
Yeah,
cruisers, but there are a lot of people that do that too. So it's just strictly a repurpose thing, but
yeah,
I tend to not look at it. I kind of just do it and forget it.
yeah.
And the other day I checked and I've got like 6,000 downloads. So somebody's listening
That's
to
awesome. Well,
it.
I'm listening to it. Well, yeah, and that's the thing, like, I will do YouTube for longer things, but I usually listen, like you said. So it's nice for me if I can just pull up my podcast app. And I think I saw one of your maybe it was a Facebook video that I meant to listen to the whole thing on Facebook, got off the app, and then I was like, "Oh, it's on your podcast." So I'll just listen to it on the podcast. So I'm like that I like being able to repurpose those things in that way so you can catch whatever kind of person it is, that you're hoping listens in and becomes a mega fan of yours.
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
I was gonna say, and it's funny because you never know. I always call it like a web. You never know
Yeah.
when someone's gonna get caught in your business web.
Yeah.
And for that longest time on cruises, when I get recognized, they're like, "Oh, you're the TikToker. You're the TikToker." And then my last cruise, because YouTube is so notoriously hard to crack, and when you do, that's
Mhm,
like the holy grail for creators. I
mhm.
actually got recognized as a YouTuber, and I'm like, I finally feel like I cracked.
You're like, "I've made it, everyone. I finally made it." I actually have seen your name in a few cruise groups this week, and people are just calling you, like, Professor Melissa. They're like, "Well, Professor Melissa says this," and I'm like, "Get it, girl. Yes, yes." Because I thought, like, kinda like you were saying, it was a TikTok thing at first, and then I went down the rabbit hole, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this girl's everywhere." I'm like, "She is killing it everywhere. This is awesome." Because a lot of times you see, especially the people that I have found first on TikTok, they're n I don't let me word this in a better way. I don't wanna say they're not smart enough, but they're not putting in the effort to move to other platforms. So I think what you're doing is really awesome because you're showing that it is possible to think a little bit strategically about this, not put all your eggs in one basket. And you mentioned you finally have help. So when did you finally say like, "Okay, I need to have an assistant or someone helping me out?" Like, what did that look like? Because I know for a lot of people listening, they are afraid to pull the bullet, or that's not the right expression, but they're afraid to what am I trying to say? Thank you. Pull
Pull
the
the trigger.
trigger. Yes, pull the trigger. Bite the bullet, pull the trigger on getting an assistant because they're gonna be paying for someone. They're afraid that their work might not be the same. So talk to us a little bit about like when you were like, okay, it's time. We're getting an assistant. And what did you have them do at first?
So actually, it is right around a year point,
Okay.
maybe March, April of last year. And it started with the social media comments. I mean, I was getting upwards of 1,000 comments a day, and then some of it's trolls. And you do get
Yeah.
a thick skin, but if someone's sitting here calling you the most nasty things in the world, you don't want that to sit there.
Yeah.
And also, I don't want to read it because I would be having the
Yeah.
best day. I could get 999 comments telling me I'm the most amazing, wonderful person on earth. And I would get one troll to be like, oh,
Yeah.
she's a fatty, fat, who fats. And I would be like, you're just, even though
I know, I get it. Yep.
it takes your whole day down.
Yeah.
So I hired a virtual assistant. And this is a great thing. The Filipino market is kind of cornered the virtual assistant because American
Yeah.
creators can hire labor as a solopreneur who, a little over a year ago, I really was not making that much money. I was
Yep.
starting to get there, but I realized to scale, I had to have help and
Yep.
I couldn't invest in hiring like a full-time person.
Yeah.
So I hired an assistant. She's still with me today. She's amazing to start helping me with comment moderation. And I had to
Mhm.
research all the different systems, find the best tool to centralize them.
Oh.
That was harder than you think
Yeah.
because no tool does it perfectly, and you got to figure out what works best for you. And starting with having her help me with the comments and just moderating and responding because if you're not engaging with your community,
Yep.
you're not engaging with your community. And so by having her answer kind of the FAQs, that
Yep.
freed me up to get in there and respond on the things that people ask me. What do you think about this? That are like something that she
You
can't
have to.
answer.
Yeah.
And it's hard because I'm literally handing my name and my brand over to her because she's
Yeah.
counting as me. And
Mhm.
as a type A person who
Mhm.
likes control, especially because my brand is me,
Yeah.
that was really hard. That was really hard.
Well, and I think
It's
that's so
necessary.
you so, like, the first person you found is she still with you?
She is.
Wow. I think that is lucky. That is good because I have gone through a few until I found someone that I'm like, "Okay, yes, this is." But I won't say that it was anything ever that I didn't really want my name put on, but I'm like, "Okay, we could do better with this," or, things like that. So that's great that you found your first
Yeah.
person and she's still there. So is she still just doing comment moderation? Is she helping you repurpose at this point? Like, has her role expanded?
Yes. So I actually pivoted a little bit and had her because she has a pretty deep skill set.
Right.
Not that comments is surprisingly hard because you
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
know a lot of things about me and my brand and my experiences and things.
Mhm.
She now helps me with some other things. Like right now, I just got into Notion. Oh my God, I love Notion.
It's
And
awesome.
she's helping me with Notion and workflows and because I've got things in Google Sheets and I can't have different pieces. I need everything
Yep.
centralized. So right now we're knee deep and trying to get everything into Notion. So then I've hired a different Filipino virtual assistant to help me with comment moderation. So now I've taken that
Okay.
off of her plate to move around to other things. And I actually hired a friend of mine who I've known for years. We're college friends. And so she works part time as I'm trying to help her build her business because that's really important to
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of people that I have on my team that I'm mentoring and trying to help them grow their businesses and
Nice.
paying them to help me along the way. But the goal is a year from now that they can be making enough money that they can quit their main jobs, be solopreneurs too. And then I can actually hire probably this time next year, actual full time, probably US based person to really do operations because
Yeah.
your girl's tired. You see
I
me
was gonna
everywhere,
say,
but it's work. And people see it and
yeah.
they're like, oh my God, influencers get a job. You have no idea how hard this job is when you
Mhm.
actually make it a business.
Yeah, especially because you are in all of those places. Like, I think that is probably part of the reason why some people choose to just stay on one platform is just because of the hours and the time. But you're an educator as well. I'm a teacher in the classroom too. And I'm like, and people are always asking me, well, how do you do all the things? And da da da. Da. And I'm like, we're a special skill set over here. Like, we want everything to be perfect. We like our systems, we're not afraid to work, basically. Now, how do you and do you ever, like, actually take time off? Like, is that something where you're like, "Next week I am completely off and we're gonna post some things from," like, do you allow yourself that vacation time, or are we still, like, knee deep in building everything and we're going as we go?
Well, I am a little bit of a workaholic. I thrive with work and
Okay.
nothing is more motivating to me. This is the first time I've ever been an entrepreneur. And I
Okay.
got to tell you, it is so motivating to me because I used to hustle
Yeah.
so hard for other people. And now I feel like my whole worldview has been expanded and I'm evangelical about it. When I talk to people, I'm like, you gotta start a business. You gotta start a business.
Mhm.
Because I kick myself for not doing this sooner. Being
Mhm.
able to call the shots, do what I want, run things my way. If I have an
Mhm.
idea, I just get to run with it. I don't have 20 layers of approval. Oh, it's so magical and free.
Mhm.
But I have also worked harder in my life than I've ever worked because it's for
Yeah.
me.
Right.
So sometimes
Right.
I find myself waking up with, because in the morning I wake up with my ideas because that's the only time my brain shuts down. And I wake up like, oh, I have this great idea. My brain's clear. And I get on my computer and next thing I know, sometimes it's 11 p.m. and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm
Yep.
working all day, but it's so fulfilling. It
Yep.
doesn't feel like work. And
Yeah.
when I'm cruising and getting content, I mean, I'm cruising. It's great. It's still
Right.
work, but it's fun work.
Yes, yes. Well, I guess that's kind of what I meant, like, when you're going on the cruises, that answered my question. You do have time where, you create your content, and then you're like, "Okay, I'm going to the pool for a little bit of time," or, "I'm gonna go play bingo," or, "I'm gonna go do whatever," and, like, unplug a little bit, and then I'll do a little bit later.
Yeah. So building out systems is important with that.
Yeah,
And so I'm trying, but I have to be careful though, because sometimes I'll go to a destination. I may never go there again. I just went to Tunis, Tunisia in North Africa. I probably will never get there again. So I
yeah,
couldn't just say, well, I'm going to keep the phone away. If I
yeah,
don't grab the footage and if I don't kind of make note of things I want to write in a port guide, I may not ever have that chance again. So it's figuring out how to be strategic with it. Now, there are
yeah,
some places like Nassau, Bahamas. I go there 8 or 9 times a year. I've got
yeah,
so much content. I absolutely like going there because I can actually relax. I know it in and out.
nice.
I've been to
Yep,
every place dozens of times. So for me, there is that nice familiarity with places I've been to that I can kick back a little bit. But the other day, I asked ChatGPT to go nuclear on me. This is a tip I heard from another creator, and I encourage you to try it if you haven't. And I
mhm,
said, if everything you know about me, go nuclear, don't fluff, don't BS. What do I need to do to take my business from a 6 figure to a 7 figure business? Just tell me. And it said, you got to
mm,
give up control. You have
mm,
to finish refining your systems. You still got work there, which I knew, but then you have to be willing to hand some of this off. And I know this because I am starting to feel a little burned out. And I
yeah,
don't want to get to the point where doing what I love and what I'm passionate about starts to feel like a job. And
yep,
it has started to feel that way sometimes.
yeah.
So ChatGPT is sage and wise, and I'm going to take its advice.
I love that. Well, and I think you're already making those steps to do that too. I mean, you already have 3 people on your team, which is way more than most people before they ever like, a lot of people that I talk to reach the burnout and then they start hiring? So I love that you're doing that first to hopefully not get to that point. Have you and maybe you mentioned this, but I don't think so. Are any of those 3 people actually helping you with content creation, or are you the one behind the scenes, like, putting the captions on and editing your videos still?
So not yet. And that's going to be the hardest piece for me to give up. And
Yeah.
so my plan based on my therapy session with ChatGPT is to finish centralizing everything into Notion, finish building out my systems. I have a few more automations I need to tweak. I need to finish refining a little bit of my content strategy because that takes time too. Like with Facebook, you got to try this. That didn't work. Tweak, try this. And it's taken me the better part of the year for me to figure it out. And I can't train someone else if I don't know it myself.
Right,
So
right.
I finally feel like I'm at the point where I can build out a content database. I have so much content. I had to
Yeah,
organize that in Google Drive, and we're talking tens of thousands of photos
yeah.
and video snippets and just figuring out how to get files back and forth. That stuff is work too. But I am
Yep.
finally getting to the point where I can get some help with that. I did hire a YouTube editor.
Oh,
That
good.
was a game changer. And it
I
was
bet.
tough. It was tough because it's expensive.
It
And at this
is.
point, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I missed the days when I had no business. My business expenses was like $10 a month for CapCut.
Yeah, it's a whole
Gonna
different
get
ballgame.
$10.
It's a tax write-off.
Yeah.
Tax write-off. That's what I tell myself
It
anytime I have anything that's, like, pricey. I'm like, "It's a tax write-off, Lindsay. It's."
well, when you hire people and that payroll starts hitting and it's like thousands of dollars, then you're like, "Oh my god, ouch." But it's so funny because 'cause I'm to
Yeah.
the point now where I'm just like, I need to buy a new tripod, and, the fancy tripod I need is like 400. I would have
Mhm.
had a conniption a year ago, and I'm like, "Nah,
Yep.
$400."
Yeah.
I've been
That's easy. Yeah, it's pocket change now, yeah. I love it.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully hand off the content creation because
Yeah.
the ideation of coming up with what are questions people have? How can I help people? If I go to a new place and I have an epiphany of, oh my God, I learned something new, I want to share it. I don't know that anyone can ever do that for me, to be
Right.
honest.
Right.
So I think that piece will always come from me. And
Yes.
frankly, I'm so fast at short form editing. It's
Mhm.
so much easier for me just to make a quick video. Long form, I was still DIYing part of it, but just this week for the first time, I'm like, I can't do it. And long form is not my specialty. I
Yeah.
just can't. It's so much better for me just to pay someone to do it. So I finally offloaded all my long form. I still do all of my ideation, the scripting, what I'm going to say, give guidance on thumbnails and things, but I've handed that mostly off from
Right.
there. And that's been a huge weight off the shoulders.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. So, as an educator myself, I'm just curious. We talked a little bit about this, but like how do you balance it all with still being in the classroom? And you'll physically be in the classroom this fall, you said, right? So you'll be back like
Yeah.
in person. So what are you setting up for that? And I'm curious, and maybe your job hasn't said anything. My job sometimes will make comments about what I do, and they're kind of passive aggressive. They're not always supportive. So has your workplace been supportive? What has that looked like? And give us a little encouragement for maybe the teacher who's listening to this, who's also trying to build her business.
So I'm fortunate to be in post-secondary because I think are given a lot more leeway than the K
Yeah,
through 12 counterparts. And I'm assuming
yeah,
you're K through 12.
I am.
You told
Yeah, high
me.
school Spanish. Yeah,
Yeah. So I have had a few little issues, nothing major. About a year and a half ago, or actually right when things were really starting to take off, I got called in to meet with my department head, and she's like, "Yeah,
yeah,
someone made a comment. You do travel a lot." And I am such an easygоing person, but I had a little bit of a professional condition of being very stern of like, "How dare you question me? I have
yeah,
won every award that this college offers. I think I'm the only person in history to ever do that. I have through the roof scores. My students sing my praises. I say yes every time you ask me to do anything. I
yeah,
have never in my life canceled a class. I gave birth to my child and I was in the classroom 2 weeks later. I didn't even take a maternity leave. So how dare you question me?" And let's
yeah.
just say after that, nobody's ever said anything to me again.
Good. Good for
Again,
you. Yeah, good
fair.
for you. Wow.
And then I have gotten no one's ever directly said anything to me on this, but I know people do talk. I go to the Caribbean. I
Yeah,
actually make a lot of money off my Amazon storefront. That's bathing suits. And when people go to the beach, you wear a bathing suit, you post pictures of your bathing suit, and there's, oh my
yeah,
God, Melissa's in a bikini. I'm like, I have a body, I have big boobs.
yep,
What about it?
right.
Like, and as a feminist, I have a lot of issues with that too. So it almost makes me want to do it even more of a,
Or
like, a how
yeah,
dare you try to tell me what to do, and, like, I'm on
that's
the beach
sweet.
having a good time or I'm with my kids just because my body looks a certain way and I, again, have big boobs,
Yep,
get over it. Get over it. Women
yeah,
have boobs.
yes, yes. I love it, I love it. So, now when you go back, 'cause this past semester, you were doing virtual classes, is that correct?
Yes.
So, a little bit more flexibility. So, how is this going to impact I'm assuming it's probably gonna impact your travel schedule a little bit more in the fall, right?
Yeah, I
The
already have my
in-person?
fall travel schedule booked out, and so
Nice.
I had to be very strategic. So I am
Yeah.
very lucky. And my department head after that conversation, and she just retired, but she's wonderful. Other than that, I've always really
Right.
appreciated, and she's been very much like, "We do value you. You are an A player. We'll give you a great schedule, and we'll let you." I got 3 semesters in a row. I wrote a textbook. I was on sabbatical 3 semesters ago, but then I was online
Nice.
all fall and spring this year. So
That's
they're
great.
very nice. They give me a Tuesday,
Yeah.
Thursday. So
Oh,
I'm
good.
able to sometimes fly out on a Thursday,
Yep.
do a short, like a 4-dayer, come back Monday night, or even sometimes Tuesday, depending on when my class is.
Mhm.
And then I schedule it around like Veterans Days on a Tuesday. So I'll squeeze in a cruise, fall break or reading days, Labor Day, and
Yeah.
then we're pretty much wrapped up after Thanksgiving. So I always do
That's
like
great.
early December. So I have
Yep.
to be strategic about it because I do pride myself on the fact that to this day, I mean, I'm probably the only professor who has done this for 15 years. I have never canceled a class due to me. Canceled for weather. Never canceled a class because I'm sick or because of whatever. Very proud of that
Wow.
record. I want to keep that record. And so there is one that I do have to have. I have a colleague who's going to come cover a class for me because I
That's
couldn't make
nice.
it work. And it was a great opportunity. I didn't want to go to Bermuda. And I don't go to
Ooh,
Bermuda.
nice. Yeah.
So I have some coverage for that. But yeah, I keep it flowing.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the woman listening to this and she's like, "This seems really overwhelming, like, I already can't juggle all the things that I have." Do you have a tip for her to put herself out there, get started with her business, like, kinda motivate her that, yes, she can do this?
I will tell you, it is overwhelming, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but the overwhelm is worth it because the payoff is when you get to be your own boss. And I will tell you too, my overwhelm at this point is completely self-induced. I could have hit that six-figure mark and kept rocking as a solopreneur and made a really nice extra income plus my main job and still
Mm,
traveled. But for me and my personality, I'm a little bit of a success junkie. I see opportunity and I can't let it go. And so I'm like, I'm not happy with 6 figures. I want 7 figures.
Yeah.
And what do I need to do to drive to get to that? So I could be resting on my laurels right now and kicking it and feeling really relaxed, but I wasn't content with that. And I know that if I keep hustling, I'm certainly not at seven figures yet, but I have absolutely every belief that I will be in the next 2 years, probably.
Oh, for sure.
At that point, then I can sit back and say, I built this. Now I'm
Yeah.
going to chill.
Yeah.
But just I would just say the overwhelm is worth it if it's for you. Don't
Mhm.
overwhelm yourself for someone else. And I know this sounds terrible, and I am a management professor, and I've managed people my whole life. But what we do is we kill ourselves working for other people, and that doesn't pay off for us. You get your paycheck, you get your health insurance, that's great. But when you're working for yourself, it's something different. And so I really encourage people because I am on this train of be an entrepreneur is
Yeah.
don't slack at your main job. Do your job. I do my main job very exceptionally well.
Yep.
But I stopped having to say, "Oh, I'll volunteer for this crappy committee, or I'll do this extra time, or I'll come to
Yeah.
6 graduations a year when nobody else does." I had to
Yep.
stop doing that so I could focus on me.
Mm. Oh, I love that so much. And that's specifically too for teachers and educators. Because, like, our school, same deal. They were like, "Well, who wants to volunteer to come to graduation and, work this club for $100 extra on your paycheck?" And I had to stop saying yes to all those things because there's not enough hours in the day. And it was like I was either prioritizing myself and what I really wanted, or I was prioritizing other people. And half the time, those other people would not have gone the other way, right? Like they would not have been prioritizing me or my business to do that either. So that was probably my hardest thing to do was to start saying no to things so that I could say yes to myself. So I
It is
really
harder too as a woman because I think a lot of times it's women, it's us that are like, "Oh, I'll do this extra thing," or, "I'll whatever." And I had to really get
yeah.
really strict on that. And the other thing is I had to let go of the mom guilt. I do
Mhm.
travel. My 12-year-old comes with me sometimes, but she doesn't like to travel like I do. And there's a point where she has to stay home and she's in school and
Yeah.
she's very well cared for. I have, thankfully, a lot of caregivers, and she also
Yeah.
has another parent. And so for a long time, I felt such mom guilt over that. But I'm like, you know
Mm.
what? I'm doing this so I can have a nice future for her. And I just bought, thanks to this business, my oldest daughter, I just bought her a house and we close in
Oh my god.
8 days.
Oh my
And I
gosh,
was like,
that's
yeah,
so
you might not be
awesome.
mom 1 week out of the month because she's
Yeah.
hustling. And for me now, traveling is my job. But I just
Right.
bought you a house. So
Oh
you're
my
welcome.
gosh. That is so cool. That is, like, one of the coolest stories that I have heard. You didn't bring this up at the beginning of the show, but you made a post I'm gonna sound like a really big stalker here, but I just so happened to see it on
Doing
Facebook.
your doing your research. Yeah.
I am. You did a post because you were a graduation speaker, and you shared a little bit about, like, your backstory. Do you wanna share a little bit of that right now? Do you mind sharing that, like, where you came from and, like, where you are now? Because I read that and I was like, "This girl has got she has got her shit together." Like, this is such a great story. So do you just? Because I think there will be a lot of people who hear that and or they say that they are in a certain situation and they can't get out of it because of past things, like where, you kinda stay stuck, and I think you're such a beautiful example of how that doesn't have to be. So anyway, would you mind to share your
Yeah.
background a little
No,
bit?
I'm an open book about it, and actually, I'm very proud of where I came from, and that was the whole gist of my speech because I went to a poor inner city, underprivileged high school, and that was my whole speech. And is don't be ashamed of where you're from, even if people make fun of you or judge you or think certain things about you because of where you're from. Be proud of that because that makes you who you are, and who you are is wonderful, and special, and unique. And I did have a hard knock life. I grew up with an alcoholic father. He was abusive. At one point, he burned our house down. My mom got pregnant in high school, dropped out, just long family history of incarceration. My dad was a felon,
Mm,
just drugs, alcohol, incarceration, and not making the right choices. And so
yeah,
my whole childhood, I just lived in chaos. And I think that's why, I'm a little OCD and type A now, almost to a fault. So I have to be careful not to go too far with that and make myself crazy. But I wanted something different for myself. And so, having 2 jobs, again, self-induced. I
yeah,
didn't have to have 2 jobs. I haven't had to work so hard, but I will not ever be in a situation where I feel no control over my life, where I feel constant chaos. And as an adult, that's really important to me. And that's a promise that child Melissa made to adult Melissa. Oh, and I also survived cancer. I don't know if I mentioned that one.
Oh, yeah, I saw that too, and I didn't know that, and I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
amazing."
So
Yeah,
it's
I
not,
think
you know what? Like, if I could go back and have the Leave It to Beaver childhood, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't
right.
because, yeah, I know I have some trauma that I carry from that I still probably need to address, but I wouldn't change a thing because that's what gave you my drive and my hustle.
Yep,
And, not everybody has that, and that is a gift. And so, yeah, there was a lot of bad, but there's some beauty that came out of it as well. And I'm going to
definitely.
leverage the good part, not ignore the bad, but try to, tackle that and move past it, but leverage the good, use as an opportunity and see it as a positive thing.
I love that. Okay, we could end this right here, but I have one more question for you that I had thought of earlier that is kinda jumping backward, but you have mentioned before that you don't take, like, comped cruises because you wanna be able to say what you really think of, your experience. You don't ever wanna feel, I don't know your exact words, but, like, paid off or people think that you're paid off to say certain things. Was that a decision you made early on in your business? And, do you think you'll stay with, because I love that, like, I love that integrity piece of it, but I also know that even as a creator, if someone's like, "I'll give you a free cruise," that's gotta be really hard to say no to as well.
Well, I'm fortunate that I have more free cruises than I can use because I've hacked the system of how to cruise free on casino offers. So that's something
Yeah.
that I don't gatekeep. I share that as well, and
Yep.
anyone can do it. So I don't need free cruise line offers.
Nice.
Sometimes I would like them, like Royal Caribbean sends me really bad offers, and I would love to sail their new ships, but I'm not going
Mhm.
to pay for it, especially
Right.
thousands of dollars.
Yep.
So I think what really is special about my brand is my authenticity, my willingness to talk about things, even if, it's a traumatic childhood, my willingness to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. And as I've told you, people online, they do not like it when you say bad things. It's entitlement of the seas. We're not allowed to complain. And
Right.
95% of my content is positive. And I think part of what resonates with people is they like that. Even though I may have a not great experience, I'd always talk about the positive part. And they appreciate that. But you sailed Horizon, right? Or you were looking at Horizon. There was a mold problem and that needs to be
I
solved
know,
out.
yep. I watched your video right before then, and
People.
I walked in the dining room, and they had taken care of it by the following cruise, and I was like, "Oh, good, I'm glad she did that."
And those tiles have been like that for God knows how long, and had I
Yep.
not done that and had that not gone viral, they probably would have ignored it, and that's tough
Yeah.
because Carnival's my favorite line,
Mhm.
and, actually to this day, Carnival has never reached out to me. Now, I also try to be very honest. If Carnival reached out to me and said, "Melissa, we're gonna pay you $30,000 to sail, you're my favorite ship, Mardi Gras, and we'll give you VIP," I would absolutely do it. I'm not an idiot,
Okay, okay,
and
okay.
I would be honest about it though, because I think sometimes creators are disingenuous and I
Yeah.
really dislike that. And so
Yes.
I always try to be upfront about things and not hide it. And just because it's my favorite cruise line, I'm not going to sugarcoat and I'm not going to ignore black mold on the ceiling just because I
Right.
love your cruise line.
Yep. Yep. Well, I'm glad, yeah, like I said, I'm glad you said that. But I remember watching that ahead of time, and I was like, "Oh, they'll take care of this now because this video's got, like, I don't know, 100,000 views or all these shares." It was, like, in all these groups I was in, and then people were sending it to that John Healed or
Yield.
Hel yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, "Oh, he'll take care of it now." And it did, it got taken care of, so I was like, "Okay, great. Glad that happened." Awesome. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I just always want that freedom to be honest, and
yeah,
because I think the trust in my brand that people they're willing to and I make commissions on things. I am a travel agent, so if I recommend a resort and someone books using my affiliate link, I get a cut of that. I always put a disclaimer on my
right,
emails and things like that so people know. But I have been sent to resorts before and they're not good, and I am like, "I'm gonna
yep,
tell you this is not good," and I'll
yep,
showcase the good, but I'm gonna also highlight the bad. I just did a long form YouTube video about one of my favorite resorts. They didn't pay me to do it, but I posted it. I'm going to post it actually in a few weeks. And I say, here's the 85% good, but here's the little 15% bad. And I want you to weigh that because if it's not for you, don't go. Go somewhere
yeah,
else. But if it is for
right.
you, it's a beautiful place.
Ooh, I love that. And that was in Mexico, you said?
It's in Costa Maya. It's probably my favorite
Okay.
resort. And again, it's wonderful, but there is one little downside. There's vendors that come and they
Mm,
try to sell you stuff and it can be pushy and it can be a turn off.
yep,
Because if someone goes there on my recommendation, I don't want them to have that experience and be caught unaware. And I'll be like, oh, I trusted Melissa's opinion and I
right,
didn't like
right.
this. I'm very upfront of telling you everything good and bad.
Yeah. Well, and some people that might not bother. So, and like that's the thing is when people take your recommendation for something and then it is bad, then they're less likely to take your recommendation on anything else, right? So, yeah, you want to have
Yeah.
that trust and authenticity for sure. Okay, to wrap it up, before we tell everyone how they can find you in all of the places and how they can work with you, I have a couple rapid fire questions I like to ask my guests at the end that are just kind of like nosy questions, to be perfectly honest, but I love hearing the answers. The first one is, do you have a morning routine, an evening routine, neither, both? What does that look like for you?
But not exactly, which is interesting because I'm such a systems person, but for me,
Yeah.
it's how I'm feeling. If I'm waking up feeling energized, mind's clear, I might do one thing versus another. And sometimes I'm tired of go to bed at 8, sometimes I go to bed at midnight. So no, I
Nice.
don't.
Okay. Okay. Love it. Favorite personal development or business book that you have either ever read or maybe one you're currently reading that you're like, this is really good?
Not a business development book, but my favorite book of all time is by a gentleman who survived the Holocaust. And I reread it every year. And for some reason, now on the spot, I can't think of the name. It's a very famous book, but it's about a man who survived the Holocaust. And it's about how he just had this amazing, optimistic viewpoint on the world. And given
Mm,
my background, I'm certainly not comparing that to
right.
Holocaust survival, but it really resonated with me about even in the midst of the most awful, traumatic, terrible things and the worst of humanity, you can still see the beauty in life and you can
Mm,
still see the good in people. And that resonates not just with business, but with my
right.
personal life as
Yeah.
well. And that is the most profound thing I've ever read. Again, so much that I make myself reread it.
Reread it. You'll have to send that to me. You'll have to email me that and I'll put it in the show notes and on the
Oh, it's
blog.
a man's search for meaning. A man's
A
search for
man's search
meaning.
for meaning?
I think
Okay.
his
All
last name is
right.
White,
Love
so
it.
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great. And then last one, and this one might be harder for you to answer, but what is a bucket list destination for you that you have not gone to, but you're like, I really want to get to this place?
Oh, it's actually easy. Antarctica.
Oh, oh, okay.
Yeah, and just because it's such a hard place to get to, I wanna get to all
Yeah.
7 continents. I just got to mark Africa off my list. I still
Nice.
need Australia and Antarctica. So, that's a tough one to get to, and you get to go through Drake's Passage, which
I know.
is
I don't know about
really
that.
crazy. See, that scares people off. I think that would be so thrilling. So, yeah, Antarctica and one of the cruise lines I sail, they do occasionally offer sailings there, and I've
Oh,
actually had
really?
free offers because Antarctica is expensive too,
Yeah,
but
it
it's a
is.
really long sailing, and I just cannot get away for 21 days.
Yep.
So that's the other way I'm able to do is I usually do shorter cruises. I can't do
Mhm.
the world cruise. I can't do that. I do have
Right.
kids. I have a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so Antarctica, unfortunately, is probably gonna have to be when my kids are older. My youngest
Mhm.
is over 18. I don't know. We'll see. But
Yeah.
Antarctica, no.
Antarctica's on mine as well. And same thing is because you have to go in their summer, which is our winter, is when most of those cruises are. And I'm like, that's exactly school time, or it's over Christmas, but it's a longer sailing. So it's still not enough time that it'll fit in my time off. And I'm like, but bucket list, yes, for sure. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, tell us all the places, and I'll link all this in the show notes as well. So if you don't have all of them, that's fine. The places people can follow you. And if you have any I know you have several lead magnets, but if you have like a specific one that you would like to send people to, let us know.
Yeah. So I'm pretty much everywhere. Even Pinterest, which is fun because it's more
Oh,
of a
fun.
search engine.
Yeah,
People look at it as a social channel, but it's a search engine, and with
it
Google
is.
change and stuff, it's really important.
Yeah.
So YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Facebook. I actually didn't do much with Instagram for a while, but I have started to dabble more in that just because brands really value it.
Yeah.
And then the big thing is my website. So I get over 2,000 inquiries a day. 99% of them are answered on my website. It's like, here's a teacher, you're like, you want to teach a man to fish? Like, answer
Mhm.
your question. Or you can go to my
Yeah.
website where I spend hours and putting together beautifully crafted port guide to answer my question. So
Yep.
profmelissa.com is my website. I pour my heart and soul and a lot of money into it and really try to make it user friendly and really
Yeah.
focused on the user. So when they're trying to get information about a place and they're anxious because they've never been, kind of like walking them through it. Like, because I'm a big what can you expect person.
Yep.
So really
Yep.
helping set the stage for what they can expect, what to do, what to avoid. So, and I always tell people if I don't have a port guide for it, I have not been. So I have a port guide for literally every destination I've ever visited. So the
Nice.
website is, I think, my main hub. And I also have a podcast too that people can stream. And then my lead magnet, if you go to profmelissa.com/subscribe, I do have, very proud of it. a cruise specific packing list, but it's a whole planning guide too. So it helps
Ooh.
you pick an itinerary. It's got a budget section. It's pretty in depth. And so that's completely free. And I also have a phone lock screen. So if you lose your phone on your cruise, you can put your lock screen. It'll tell people how to find you. You get that free when you subscribe as well. So that's
Oh,
all
that's
built in
cool.
as well.
Oh, very nice. And I will say I love Melissa's emails if you're listening to this. So make sure you get on her email list because you send a really nice like recap email of cruise news and some port links and different things like that. And I'm always like, ooh, let's click on this one and see what this one's about today. So yes, definitely get on the email list. Yeah, and give Melissa some love for being on our show. So thank you so much, Melissa. This has been such a great conversation. I've really, really loved it. And I know our listeners are going to too.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Lindsay.
So welcome.